Hello, I'm Ellen Gunning. My business is the PR Training Academy, and I'm also a member of the Executive Council of EDEL. I'm delighted to be hosting this series of interviews where we have an opportunity to meet fellow EDEL members and learn from them. Today, I'm chatting with Elena Gómez Ortego from APEOIA. Elena, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Helen. Thanks for having me here. Thank you.
Now, your organisation is an association of language teachers, which is based in Andalusia. Tell me something about why you formed in the first instance.
All right. So the APEOIA is the Association of Language Teachers in Andalusia. It was founded in 1997. And throughout these years, co-workers who occupy management positions at schools, they are directors or principals, head of study teachers or teachers, where they represent the teachers' needs, and we play an important role in negotiations carried out with the regional ministries of education in each province. And these negotiations usually focus on organizational, legislative, and other innovative policies. But we act as a networking association, and we organize all kinds of webinars or conferences or lectures, and I'm training the teachers as well. I mean, training sessions for the teachers, and that's our main role. Mm-hmm.
You said that you liaise a lot with the Ministry for Education. One of the things that I found really surprising when I was looking at your website is that you're actually state funded, so that all of your language schools are free to people to attend. Well, so are they free? And B, is it for children only, people in school, or is it for adults?
Okay, that's a good question. They're state funded, but students have to pay a small amount. They pay like 70 euros, something like that. They enroll and they have to pay that amount, but it's a yearly rate. So it's a yearly fee, right? So it's a minimum fee. As to the age, concerning the age, our schools cater for students ages 14 onwards. So it's mainly for adults, although teenagers can also attend. Mm-hmm.
So would most of your students then be in their 20s, 30s, 40s?
We have a variety, all of the ages, from 15 years old to 60 years old. I've got a class, we've got a mixed ability classes or lessons, and in my classroom this year I had some students who were like 50 years old, in their 50s, but sometimes we have retired people who are retired and they want to learn a language.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea that the government actually promotes the teaching of other languages. It's quite unique, I would think, throughout Europe, that it's a government-funded initiative that's open to everybody.
Yes.
I'm not aware of anybody else doing it.
I think in Germany they have something similar. It's the Volkshochschule. I went in one of them. I went to one of them. I studied German in Germany, and I went to a Volkshochschule. I think that could be something. This is the most, in comparison. This is something that I find quite.
It's the closest to compare.
Yeah, it's similar to our system. Yeah.
And your system, your language system, are the languages that you teach determined by the government? So do they tell you which languages should be taught, or do you tell them which ones you're teaching?
It depends on what the needs, the public, the necessities, the students' needs are. The principals can ask for more languages, but it depends on the needs. They base that on the number of people interested in studying the languages. It's sort of complicated.
The whole idea fascinates me, I have to tell you. I'm wondering do you teach Spanish as a language? Because that would be the first language. So do you teach a lot of people who are migrants or immigrants or people who have come to Spain to work? Do you teach them Spanish?
Yes, we do. We have Spanish for foreigners as well. Well, I have to say that this is not our system is not only Andalusia based. It's not only in the south. It's in the whole of Spain, right? Spain has a network of a school of languages which are state funded by the Ministry of Education, and yes, I mean, all of these languages you can learn. But in Spain, there are lots of languages. In Madrid, in the school, they have a lot of languages, even more than in Andalusia. We only teach 11 languages in Andalusia. We teach Arabic, German, French, Greek, Japanese, Chinese, Portuguese, Spanish for foreigners, English, and I think I've left something out, but French, German.
That's a really interesting mix, though, because my first thought was for people coming to the country to work or whose partner is working in the country, that they can learn to speak the language, because otherwise you can't assimilate. But then if you're also teaching the likes of, well, German, Japanese, are you teaching these as business languages? So is it people who want to do business with those countries? Are people studying with you out of interest because they want to go on holidays? What drives people to study a foreign language?
All right, that's a very good question. Well, we have different sorts of motivation, right? Our students are motivated by different aspects. Some of the students want this for, because they're studying at high school or they're going to university. So they want to, learn the language, because at university, one of the requirements is to have a B1 or B2 or something, right? Another thing that drives them to study is, of course, professional development. We have lots of professionals among us, our students, adults who need language improvement for their job requirements, or because they just simply love it. And finally, we've got those students who need it because they have a relative, somebody who's a foreigner, from another country. So they need the language to interact with their families. And there's another reason why they study. Some of the people, they do it just for fun or just to learn as a hobby. So we have got different sorts of interests and motivation.
It makes for a very interesting classroom for people to teach, I have no doubt. Now, tell me, I know when I asked you earlier about before we came on air, about the challenges that were facing you, one of them was innovative education policies. How are you planning to innovate in the future? Because presumably you had been teaching your classes one-to-one and then they moved to fully online or blended. What does the future look like?
Well, so far we've been, transitioned from a face-to-face. Well, we've got like three. First of all, to start with, we've got two types of learning modes. We've got the face-to-face traditional method, and we've got blended learning. Just before the pandemics, we had a blended learning system. Now we also have online learning, but this online learning now, it's just it's starting at school. So we are getting online learning languages, right, or courses, and this is something that has happened after the pandemics right now. So we're just moving on to the online field, and we don't know how it's going to be, but that's in there. Now, as you were asking me, what are the challenges? We've been teaching blended face-to-face. These are the systems that we have been dealing with. Well, depending on the school, they plan the lessons differently. For example, I had online lessons in the first, for example, the first 2 hours. Let's say I've got my first lesson or schedule, right? Slot, right? So in that slot, I taught online lesson. And finally, I moved on to a face-to-face lesson. So we've also been teaching online for students who had enrolled in a face-to-face course. So it's been a challenge. I think that everybody is in that. I mean, everybody has had to teach online, I guess, right? All throughout the world. So the pandemic has forced us to do that, right? In innovation, this is something that the government and the ministries of education are dealing with now at the moment. They gave us a questionnaire, and they're studying, they're analyzing the teachers' needs and schools' needs, because the idea is that we make a change, that that the education is facing, challenges now. So the idea is to make this possible, to think about the schools that we want, and to think about the solutions that we can, or the measures that we can, we can create, or yeah.
So you're actively liaising with the ministry, who are asking you what you think the best possible solution for the future is, and you're actually trying to liaise with them to make sure that you're providing what they need, but in a way that is best suited to this whole new environment. So I presume I could be entirely wrong. Are you planning to resume face-to-face classes in the same kind of volume in the coming years, or do you think they'll be much smaller?
Well, face-to-face, this is always going to exist. Because it is it is regulated by law. I mean, the principle of education is like students come to their lessons, they have their teacher, and they teach face-to-face. However, as I said before, blended learning has been with us in our schools for a long time, like almost a decade or more than a decade. So this is going to stay. I mean, we've also going to have blended learning systems, and they really work. They work well. But online is the thing that I'm in particular, I'm quite curious about how this is going to develop, and how we're going to deal with that at schools from the school perspective. Yes, as you know, as you said, you just said it perfectly, I mean, correctly. I'm in liaison with the Ministry of Education at particular moments. Also, the principals of schools are, they also have this connection with the Ministry of Education, and we're the topic now is innovation and digital transformation, and this is where we want to go. And I think that's the future, that's the present. So we have to.
And I presume the fact that you're putting such a huge focus on kind of moving to online, or moving fully to online, is at least part of the reason why you joined EDL.
Well, this may be, yeah, this is one of the reasons. I found it quite interesting that there was an association for online teaching, or I mean online education, but also because I saw what I saw what you did, the organization, and I think it's quite interesting that people are connected by, that all the needs and all that it helps people exchange ideas, projects concerning any type of education. I mean, educational settings. I find it quite interesting.
You're quite a new member as well. So have you had much support since you joined?
Yes, I've had a lot of support. So I appreciate I appreciate the support. I'm in contact, with Tony, and I've already contacted other members. We're working on that still, right? But I think what you do and the conferences, the conference was great, the last conference. And I think it's worth being a member. I think it's really worth it. And now more than ever, because the association is specialized in online education. And I think that's the present. That's not the future anymore. We have to work towards that transformation.
I think that's a great note to close on, that is the present and not the future.
Exactly.
Elena Gómez Ortego, President of APEOIA, thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed that chat.
Thank you very much. Likewise, thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me to get to meet you, Ellen, and it's an honor that you really contacted me. So I really appreciate it that I can have a say, and I can tell you, you can know more about our Association of Language Teachers in Spain. So
Well, I love doing these interviews because I learn from every single one of them, and I learned lots from that one as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're going to close it there. I'm Ellen Gunning. My business is the PR Training Academy, and you've been watching one of a series of the interviews with EDL members from EDL, the European Association for Distance Learning. Until next time, goodbye.
Essential online training solutions for communications professionals, the PR Training Academy.